Bonjour, bonjour, bonsoir tout le monde. Thank you everyone for joining us today. My name is Wolf Pafil, and I have the honor of serving as the executive director and founder of Haiti Policy House. We are truly delighted to have each and one of you here with us today. Um, at Haiti Policy House, our mission is clear. We are dedicated to addressing foreign policy issues that are directly impacting Haiti. Today's event holds a particular significance as we find ourselves at a critical juncture in Haiti history. Our nation's future hangs in a balance amidst an unprecedented political climate where both new and tested ideas are being put to the ultimate test. We face pressing challenges, from widespread insecurity and instability to the urgent need for a functional government. It is in this context that we gather today to delve into a topic of immense importance: the debate surrounding Haiti's constitution. We explore and debate the merits of both the 1987 Constitution and the 2011 Constitution, each with its own historical context and implication to Haiti's future. To guide us through this discussion, we are honored to have two esteemed guests with us today, Johnny Celestin and Firmin Baker. Each will offer the insight and perspective on this critical issue, shedding light on the complexities and implications of our constitutional framework. As we embark on this journey of exploration and debate, I encourage each one of you to engage fully, ask questions, and challenge assumptions. It is through robust dialogue and thoughtful discourse that we can truly chart a path forward for Haiti. And before we begin, let me also wish you all a happy Haitian Heritage Month. It is the time to celebrate our rich culture and heritage, which continues to inspire our mission and guide our endeavors at Haiti Policy House. Once again, thank you very much for being part of this important conversation. Together, let us strive for a future where Haiti thrives, guided by principles of justice, democracy, and prosperity for all. Thank you very much. And I will now introduce our moderator, Dr. Gloria Blaise.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for the introduction, Wolf. My name is Dr. Gloria Blaise, and I'm the Director of Research here at Haiti Policy House. Part of my responsibilities, among many, is to develop strategies on how to accomplish the organization's research goals by connecting with experts, universities, and other research organizations in Haiti and around the world who are interested in Haiti's foreign affairs. Tonight, it's a pleasure to moderate this inaugural event for our Haiti Policy Debate series. Before we get started, I have 3 points to make, and following that, I will get into the rules for the debate and the logistics thereafter. The first point I would like to make is that Haitians' political debates, whether it is at home, at happy hours after work, on school campuses, online, or on the radio, it's likely that you have witnessed at least once in your lifetime. It's hard to escape political debates. Second, often political debates about Haiti can be difficult to have, especially the one that we are about to have this evening. And right now, even during moments of crisis, emotions are running high, and it can be difficult to hear each other and have informed debates. To add another layer, social media tends to create major confusion with its speed, misinformation, and disinformation. It makes it even harder to have fruitful debate and creates further tension in our community. To put it simply, you might get more yelling than talking and more ranting than actionable ideas to push the needle forward. Finally, my third point is within the backdrop of this dilemma and the state of the country's governance that Haiti Policy House forms, to our knowledge, the first of its kind, which is a political debate platform focusing on foreign policy to Haiti. We believe that respectful and informed debates is necessary for 3 reasons. First, it can inform and educate the population, both of Haitian and non-Haitians. It can show that experts, of whom we have many, who have different perspectives on an argument, can find common ground and come up with new public policy proposals. And lastly, it can answer questions from the public that can actually be answered when there is a debate that is structured and has rules. And so that wraps up my main points. Let us now move on to the rules of the debate. The intention of this evening is to discuss the constitutionality of the 2 proposed paths forward. It is not to change the course of action that has been determined. Debates like this offer an opportunity to inform and proactively address policy moving forward. Prior to showtime yesterday, I tossed a coin that both Johnny Celestin and Furman Backer chose a side for it to fall on, and the winner was Mr. Backer, who chose tails. This means that Mr. Backer will go first in opening remarks and last in closing remarks. Both Johnny Celestin and Furman Backer agree with this decision. A bit of background on today's debaters. Johnny Celestin has over 30 years of experience improving lives across Haiti and the United States through various civil society organizations. He currently serves on the board of directors for several prominent organizations, as well as our very own Haiti Policy House, where he serves as our board president. Thank you, Johnny. He is currently a deputy director in New York City's Mayor's Office of Minority and Women-Owned Business Enterprises. Furman Backer is a strategist and business consultant. He builds diaspora partnerships, leading successful trade shows, and promoting Haiti's economic growth. He is a retired supervisor, a patent examiner at the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office, and Furman also holds multiple degrees, including doctoral studies in physics, material science, management, and education. In a few moments, I will pass it to Furman Backer to start us off with remarks. Each speaker will be given 5 minutes to complete their opening remarks. Following the remarks, we will enter the free-flowing debate for an extended period of time, leaving ample time for us to answer questions from members of the audience and live audience that have live questions. I want to remind everyone that Haiti Policy House does not take sides or endorse any specific policy. We are a nonpartisan institution, and the views expressed by the speakers on this show are their own. We also encourage people in the audience to do their own fact-checking to further support the arguments made this evening. Again, thank you everyone for being here tonight. I will now pass it on to Furman Backer for his opening remarks. Thank you everyone. Furman, you have 5 minutes to get us started.
Thank you, Dr. Blaise, and thank you everyone, and thank you my colleague Johnny Celestin, who agreed to debate me today on this critical issue facing the country today. That is the respect and the application of the Constitution, and I commend Haiti Policy House for organizing this event, because I think that it is a critical time for us to debate the issues, for people to understand the different side and where we are coming from on each side of the issue. As you said at the beginning, political debate is what we do as a Haitian. You take Haitian and put two together, and the next time they're gonna start talking about politics until they go to sleep. So that's what we do. So this is a debate, and I welcome the participation, and I will provide as much input as I can in the debate this evening. A constitution is a set of rules that guides a country, a state, or political organization work. What makes us a nation as Haitian is not because that we share the same land, not because we share the same culture, not because we dance to the same tune, not just because we eat the same food, but because we all agree on the set of rules of principle that guide us as a nation, and that is the Constitution. A constitution stands as a cornerstone on any institution, nation's governance, and body in its values, principle, and aspiration that makes them successful. For example, Christianity has the Bible. Islam as a Quran. Companies have bylaws. All of them serve one purpose and one purpose only. That's to guide the institution in the quest for perfection. Haiti's current constitutional framework is under immense scrutiny, and it's not just now in this current situation. It has been under scrutiny for a long time, reflecting deep-seated challenges. It requires a deep understanding in its application. The Constitution provides mechanism on what to do in each of the challenging times that we've been facing. Throughout Haiti's short history, of course, it's over 200 years. If you look at some of the history of some countries in the world, that they last much longer than time, we have had 22 constitutions between 1801 and 2012, which was the latest amended one. And each of them clearly specified what to do in case of a vacancy at the head of state. I know my friend on the other side will argue that there is no prescription or mechanism for the current situation because you don't have the institutions to allow that to be applicable. However, there have been successful precedents that can be applied in this current situation. For example, the Article 149 of the 1987 Constitution clearly called for the president of the Supreme Court to fill the presidential vacancies until election can be held. It has been applied twice within the past 3 decades. It is therefore a valid precedent. Look at it as like a builder. When facing challenges, a builder do not go out and create a new set of tools. They usually reach in their toolbox to see what is it that they have used in the past in order to alleviate their situation. Haiti must therefore look into her past to find precedents to bring Haiti back in constitutional order. As we embark in this debate, we must recognize the gravity of the situation. We must engage in a rigorous examination of Haiti's constitutional landscape, critically assessing its strengths and weaknesses, and chart a course toward meaningful application. These debates offer us a platform to explore diverse perspectives, exchange ideas, and ultimately pave the way to a more just, inclusive, and democratic Haiti. We are going to approach this discussion with humility, empathy, and shared commitment to the well-being of the Haitian people. We will, my colleague and I will strive to honor Haiti's past, navigate its present challenges, and forge a brighter future guided by reinvigorated the spirit of the constitutional framework. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Firmin. So now we'll turn it over to Johnny for his 5-minute opening remarks. Johnny, unmuted.
Thank you very much. Well, thank you so much for creating this space where we can have a hearty debate about issues that are extreme importance for our country. First, I want to acknowledge the Haiti Policy House for this putting this debate together and creating this particular program. I want to acknowledge the executive director, Wolf, and founder. Also want to acknowledge our moderator, Dr. Gloria Blaise. And certainly, I want to acknowledge my friend and my opponent in this particular debate, Firmin Baker. And I appreciate to be debating you on this particular issue. And certainly, I want to thank all of those people who have signed on, whether it is here directly or watching us through various channels, to hear what we have to say about this particular issue. First, I have to say that, I, in many ways, I agree with my colleague, Firmin, and some of the fundamentals that he talked about in terms of the Constitution being really the cornerstones of a society. But sometimes, as a builder, you do have to start over, and sometimes you don't have enough tools in your toolboxes. And so this is of extreme importance because as we delve into this crucial debate, what we need to consider is whether the tools that we have is sufficient for the challenges that Haiti is facing. The question is simple. Can Haiti's constitution be employed to resolve our current governance crisis? Specifically, we are talking about the role of the Supreme Court in this scenario. And more specifically, as my friend Firmin noted, we want to talk about Article 149 and whether what's in Article 149
allows the political actors and give them the tools necessary to navigate this crisis. I am going to say that it doesn't. Haiti is in the throes of something that it has never experienced before. It is being suffocated by gang violence in the capital, which has plunged the country into turmoil. Haiti has also experienced a number of events that doesn't allow it to follow its constitution. So indeed, in the past, we did have precedents with Erta Pascal Trouillot, as well as Justice Boniface. But today, I will suggest that there are two reasons why a justice is not a solution. First, what Firmin is asking is for us to go back to a constitution that does not exist. Second, even if we were able to get over this particular challenge and said, forget the constitution that exists today, which is the 2012 constitution, the amended constitution, and decided, put it aside, let's go back to the old one. Even if we did that, what my opponent in this particular situation is suggesting is that even if we try to apply the 1987 constitution, we would have to violate that constitution in order to apply it. So this is really something that brings me to my second point, which is essentially the Constitution as we have it, whether we are looking at the 1987 Constitution in the past, which, by the way, again, doesn't exist anymore. We have a 2012 Constitution. It is essentially impractical and unworkable. We could overlook the legal hurdles and propose to ignore the law to essentially apply something that doesn't exist. But the amended Constitution itself, 87 or 2012, does not provide a path for Article 149 to be applied, in this particular case, for a judge from the Supreme Court to be applied, to be temporary provisional president. Essentially, we don't have a parliament. We don't have any of the structures that allows for this to happen. As a result, we have to solve this political crisis through a political negotiation, and this is where we are today. So that's what I will argue. Thank you for the time, and I look forward to debating my colleague on this point and see how we can understand and find solution for what we're facing today. Thank you.
Thank you, Johnny. And so, just to reiterate what I'm hearing from both sides, so Firmin Backer, what I'm hearing that really stuck out to me was looking back at Haiti's history, looking for presidents that can serve as a guide for today, and really trying to leverage what has worked in the past to move us forward on your end. And Johnny, your thoughts is going back wouldn't provide a path. The 2012 amendment doesn't provide the actual provided path to use Article 149 moving forward. And so what we're looking at now is pretty much a situation where there aren't enough tools in our toolbox to move forward with what was proposed or what has been suggested on the side of using Article 149. So as we now enter the free-flowing debate, I would like for us to just give a bit more detail for those that don't know in our audience about what the amendment of the 2012 amendment, what it included in it, and what does it mean for us now as we try to pretty much figure out a path forward or make our sides the case for either side. I'd like first just give a bit of context on that for those that aren't aware of the amendment and how it affected that article. So I'll let Johnny go first since you brought up Article 149 quite a few times.
Sure. Well, thank you. Essentially, what Article 149 is suggesting in the 1987 Constitution, the path that it allows is that, and I know that we're going to flash this a little bit later to make sure that everybody have a sense of what it looks like, what the language is. What it does is that it says if the president is unable, if he dies, if he's sick, or has some issues that he can't lead the country, the 1987 Constitution had provided for a judge, and it says specifically that it would be the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court And if the Chief Justice is not available, then you would sort of go with the oldest serving justice. And so the Constitution itself provided in Article 149 the process. More importantly, it said that this Chief Justice, it would have to be the National Assembly that brings these Chief Justice, or essentially give him the power to take over for the president. I'm arguing that that article doesn't exist anymore because we are no longer in the 1987 Constitution. The 2012 Constitution, which is the one that has been in effect since May of 2011, and of course published in 2012 by President Martelly, that Constitution, which is the Constitution that we have today, it is the Constitution that essentially every single judge on the court today, all 11 of them, it is the Constitution on which they took the oath. That's the Constitution they're going to protect. That Constitution, the 2012, that is active today, was amended and does not, in effect, talk about judges anymore, and allows for the Prime Minister and the Council of Ministers to take over when the president is unavailable for whatever reason. And so that's the reason why I'm saying that there is no path either under the 1987 Constitution, because we don't have any of the institutions to make that happen, nor under the active Constitution, the 2012, because it doesn't refer to judges at all.
All right. Thank you, Johnny. And so, Firmin, I'd like for you to jump in here. And so you mentioned earlier about this approach, or my gathering is the approach that has been determined now. It may not be a Haitian-led solution. And so based on this, I guess, situation of the amended Constitution that what's been used and doesn't mention using judges anymore. So could you provide us with your take or your side or your response to Johnny's earlier remarks, but also what he just mentioned just now? You're muted, Firmin.
Sorry. Let's look at what's going on here. We're talking about Haiti is facing a crisis. Therefore, we need to examine exactly what kind of crisis Haiti is facing. People are talking about a political crisis. Is it really a political crisis? I think that I tend to frame this as an institutional crisis rather than a political crisis, because the reason why that my friend here say that you cannot apply the Constitution is because the institution you need to apply the Constitution are not available at this case. So we got to go back and look at why is it that the institutions are not available. And also we have to look at which of the institutions are not available now. We don't have a parliament. That's the main institution that's not available. But we do have one institution that is still there. That's the Supreme Court. So we don't have, we have an institutional crisis, but the one institution that can be used in this case is still there and fully functional. So if we frame this crisis as a political crisis, therefore we're going to miss the boat. And also, can we really define it as a political crisis? Because is it that the political parties that are fighting with each other? I mean, that's not what I am seeing. So we have to frame the crisis that we're facing here correctly in order to understand what is it that we are facing. And that's the reason why that I take the approach, we have one institution that has mentioned or that has been used in the past, that we can go with that institution in order to solve the institutional or the crisis that we're facing here. And also we're looking at this, and a lot of people are saying that, well, if we go with the political parties, okay, so solution, if it is a Haitian solution, but our core values are embedded in our Constitution, in our laws, in our principles. The 1987 Constitution that we can use Article 149 as a precedent was voted by 99.8% of the population. So if we just add the 2%, that means that unanimously, the people of Haiti agree in 1987, these are the laws that we are going to use to make us a nation. These same laws were amended, and it's not 298 of them that were amended. Some of them were amended. So if you look at it, the Constitution of 97 is still alive, but it is alive through an amendment in 2012. Therefore, if you do not have a prescription, or if that prescription was amended, you can go back to present, because the idea here is to bring Haiti back into constitutional order. So if we have one institution that can allow Haiti to come back to the constitutional order, we can use that tool in order to do that. Because when you're talking about a few of the political parties in the country that put together that to create a solution and to call it Haitian solution, where that up until now, I have not seen any survey or any poll that has conducted for the Haitian to say something, for the Haitian people to say something about that solution. Therefore, we cannot fully call it a Haitian solution. We can call it a few political parties solution. But if there was any of the constitution anywhere that has said that when you find a situation like this where you don't have the institution, you revert back to a political consensus, I would say okay. But this is the first time in the history of
So Philman has his face with a challenge here.
This is the first time in the history of Haiti where that political parties came together to provide Haitian people a solution.
So I'll pass it on to Johnny. I did want to make sure that as Johnny, as you respond to Philman's statements just now, earlier you mentioned that there were judges that voted on the amendment, correct? That was made in 2011, and I think folks are trying to now revert back to the
yeah,
one
they didn't vote on the amendment. So they didn't vote on the amendment. Can you hear me?
Yeah, you good.
Okay. So the challenge my opponent faces in this particular situation is that he wants to apply the law. And who doesn't? I want to apply the law, except that there is no law to apply. My opponent is saying 98% of the people voted for the 1987 Constitution. And I'm saying to my dear friend, there is no 1987 Constitution anymore. There is a 2012 Constitution because it was amended. I know in the folklore, we want to call it the 1987 amended Constitution because, look, it's no longer the 1987 Constitution. It is the 2012 Constitution. The 2012 Constitution has zero path for a judge to become provisional president. But Philman, even if we were to go back to the 97 Constitution, you cannot tell me that to go into the Constitution, go backwards, even though it doesn't exist. Let's assume that there was a political agreement and say, forget the 2012, even though it is the Constitution that is in effect today. It is the Constitution. If you were arrested today in Haiti, or if you had any particular issue, business or otherwise, and you went in front of those judges that you would want to pick one of them, even if you did that today, the fact that there isn't the institution, right? If you're following the Constitution, what it says the National Assembly has to put this judge in power. There is no National Assembly. So what you're going to end up with, even if you were to go back to the 1987 Constitution, is a political agreement. So you're going to have a political agreement on two fronts. One, we are going to politically agree that we are going to disregard the constitution that we have today, that is in effect, and go backwards. That's the first hurdle. And the judges would have to agree to that as well, because they're the ones who took an oath. They were, from 2011, we had a president who took an oath on the 2012 Constitution, President Moise. We had all of the judges, all across the board, from rural to the Supreme Court, all of them took an oath to protect the 2012 Constitution, voted to put their hands and said, we are going to protect that 2012 Constitution. So we'd have to get them to agree. That is a political agreement, right? So at the end of the day, you either have the option of you have a political agreement to go back to use the 1987 Constitution and disregard the article in the Constitution that you want to apply and say, forget the fact that the Constitution itself requires a National Assembly. Forget the fact that the Constitution itself did not exist. We're going to apply it the way we think we should apply it. Well, that is a political agreement, right? So you cannot, on the one hand, want to use the law. And I agree, we should use the law. It should be a guiding principle. But there are situations where, at the end of the day, you have to have a political agreement. And if I'm hearing you right, my friend, at the end of the day, you either follow the law, that means you have no path, or you have a political agreement and you decide this is what we're going to pick from the Constitution and do it. Or maybe you have a third option. It's a putsch. It's about power. We take the power and we make the rules. So that's what I would say to you. You have to sort of deal with what is in the 1987 Constitution if you want to apply it to the letter. How do you get around the requirement to have a National Assembly if you want to follow the law? That's the challenge.
Yeah, got it. No, thank you, Johnny. So, Fairman, I'll let you unmute and definitely respond.
Yeah, let me chime in on that to say that the 1987 Constitution in Article 149 does not require a parliament for the Supreme Court or for the president of the Supreme Court. It says that the temporary duty of the presidency shall be vested in the president of the Supreme Court, where the duty of the prime minister shall be vested in the president of the National Assembly. What you don't have, you do have the first requirement. It's the second requirement that you don't have. You don't have a National Assembly to appoint a prime minister or the president of the National Assembly to be the prime minister, but you do have the first requirement. What I'm talking about here is you are in a situation where the institutions are not available. And what I'm saying is that let's go back to what has been done before and has worked, because we've never had a situation like this. So we bought into a solution that we think is going to work, because we've never had political party come before throughout the history of Haiti. And if there's one, please reference it. We have never had political parties come together to say that this is a Haitian solution. However, we've had the application of the law in the past in order to bring about a solution. And it's not any law, a law that has been accepted by the Haitian people. So it's not that you don't have it, it's whether or not you want to use it, whether or not you want to use it. And in my opinion, that because it has been used before successfully twice in the past 3 decades, that we can go and say, okay, let's use this tool that has worked before, instead of go ahead and create a different tool that we don't know if it's going to work.
Family, I do have a question for you. Earlier, I mean, what you've been saying a few times is that looking at what's worked in the past. Do you know, or Johnny, do either of you know any cases or references or analogies of other countries that have had a similar situation that can be used as like a reference for what's going on and how we move forward? I see Johnny fell for a bit, but Fairman, I mean,
Yeah,
if you have
but
any...
let me Johnny is saying that because that you amended the Constitution, therefore the amendment, I mean the the Constitution is no longer there. An amendment is changes from the original one, which means that the original Constitution is still within the 2012 amendment. This particular article itself, that's the one that has been amended, but you are in a situation where you can go back to the original law that all Haitian, 99.8% of Haitian have agreed that these are the laws that's going to make us a nation. You can always go back. It's not that you threw it away. It's not that you cannot apply it because it has been applied before. And it is what that we all agree that's going to make us a nation. We can use that tool because there's one institution at least that is still available to go and use that law to bring Haiti back into the constitutional order.
Got it.
Yeah, and I see that my background is falling a little bit, but I'm trying to work through that. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yeah, okay, so I'll try to come back through that. But I just want to say that, Fiume, you still haven't answered. You keep saying that the 1987 exists within the 2012. Imagine...
What I'm saying is that the 1987 is the original constitution, and due to the fact that it is amended does not mean that it's gone forever. It's like if you look at the American Constitution that has been amended, you have to look at the amendment, but the original Constitution is still alive and well, and you got to work within the amendments.
That's exactly right. You have to work within the amendments. So we don't even have to talk about... Let's just take an example. There was an amendment that essentially recognized the humanity of us Black people in this country. And it is the law of the land, right? The constitutional amendment that allows us to be able to vote as people of color, well, particularly Black people, formerly enslaved people, and that particular law is the law. You cannot say, well, you know, at the founding of the United States, Black people were considered 2/3 and were not allowed to vote, and the majority of Americans voted for this, and therefore it is in the spirit of the law. That's not how it works. The amendment that's been put in place is the law. And the amendment that's in place in the 2012 Constitution does not provide for a judge to become provisional president. It simply does not. So you either have to say that I'm going to go back to the 1987. So that's where I think we're maybe not approaching this in the same way. The law is the law. 1987 doesn't exist because it was amended. And if you agreed that it was amended, then there's no point referring to it. Now, if you want to refer to it, I'm open to that. However, it would have to be a political agreement because there is no way you can have something that doesn't exist become the law when it's no longer the law because it was amended. So that's where we think, you know, we sort of have to struggle with that particular challenge.
And Johnny, while you kind of went down with the network, I had asked a question about were there any other countries that were analogies that can serve as an example for a similar situation like this? Are you aware of any that could serve as an example of this current situation that can demonstrate either this approach or this approach that is being determined now? Is it something that has been, I guess, done elsewhere in a similar context?
Yeah, I'm not aware of any other country that has faced similar situation. I mean, I think there are some countries right now in Africa where there's been a putsch, meaning that the military has taken over and suspended everything, and they suspended it from a constitutional perspective in terms of their ability to rule, because that's what a putsch does, which is essentially they take power by force, but it's not following the prescription of the Constitution. So there isn't. I don't know of a similar analogy that that we can apply in Haiti's case.
Yeah, Firmin, I ask you the same question as well. Are there any cases that you're aware of before I move on to my next question?
I don't know any country that have been in this unique situation, because we have to make it as a unique situation. A lot of countries they've gone through civil war. As a result of that, the parties come together and agree on something. A lot of countries they go through political turmoil where you see fighting among the political factions. But this is a situation that is really unique. And we don't have to go to other countries to look at the precedents. We can see that within our own history, what presidents that we had before, and what we're talking about here is a unique situation. This is absolutely unique, where you do not have any elected institution to make decisions for the country. And we also have to look at, why is it that we don't have any elected institution? It's because that we have a constitution that is continuously ignored. And the reason why that we know that is because in 2019, when the Constitution says that at the end of the parliamentarian term, you have to have election in order to elect a new parliament. But look, there's so many times that the Constitution is just ignored and people do their own thing. Therefore, we find ourselves in a constitutional crisis now, because the institution that you need to make the Constitution applicable, and they're not available. Now, what I'm saying to my friend is that we don't have, and if we go through a political agreement to go back and apply the 1987 Article 149, who's to make that decision? Because you're talking about a country with between 400 to 500 political party, and we count it. It's about 6 or 7 that are represented on this council now. So to call this a Haitian, which means that if we look at it, the best Haitian solution for any political crisis is allow the people to make their choice. So if you don't have that, therefore let's look at what has worked in the past. And this is where I say that we need to go and see what has worked in the past, because we are being very creative to solve an institutional crisis through political means. A few political parties are benefiting, but the rest of the people and the rest of the people with political parties, that they're not. So can you call this a fully Haitian solution?
Can I just ask one thing before I let Johnny go? There was a question that was asked. So, and I think, Johnny, you mentioned something along the lines of this earlier. So someone asked, so is the entire 87 Constitution null at this point? And then from there, you could go ahead and respond to Firmin's points just now, Johnny.
So it's the entire, so here's the thing, right? You take the Constitution, let's just say it had, 200 plus articles in it. And let's, for argument's sake, say you change the first 10. And so this new version that you have has 190 that were the same and 10 that are new, right? And so we would call this the first version Constitution A, in the second version Constitution B. And my friend Firmin keeps going back to, we've done this in the past, we have this Constitution from the past, meaning that he wants to stay with A as it was before, not taking into account the 10 articles that would change. And I don't want to get out of the conversation, sort of move in terms of, are the actors sufficient? Are there enough people? I want to stay in the law. If you want, I would agree with you, Fiamet. If you say to me, we're going to have a political agreement to go back to a constitution that doesn't exist anymore, but because we used it in the past, we can agree together to go back to it because we think it could be useful. If I go with your logic, let's go back to the Constitution of 1805. Some people are calling for that. Why not?
Yeah.
Exactly. But to do that, what does it require?
But
A political agreement.
Not to cut you off, but
Go ahead.
what I am saying that we have a specific, unique situation.
But it doesn't matter. It doesn't.
No. We gotta put it exactly what we're talking about here. We have a specific and unique situation.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, we have many tools in our toolbox. And then if we want to go back, if we want to say, let's not go back to 87. Let's go back to the one in 1957 or the one in 1964. They did have specific requirement. And if you look at the requirement, it's either the secretary or a secretaries act as a consul until you have election. But what I'm saying, you don't even have, it's like you cannot even have that because you don't even have secretaries. So the closest one, because the institution of the Supreme Court is still alive and well, the closest one that we can use to alleviate the situation is the 1987. And also, although that it's not that I'm saying that, okay, forget the 2012, the tool, the institution you need to apply the 2012, they're not available. But the institution you need to apply the 1987 is still alive. Therefore, instead of us being created, whether or not you call it a political situation that allows to do that, but it is a law that has been accepted.
It's not a law.
Let me let.
It is an original. Let me use that word. It is an original law that has been amended, that was accepted by 99.8%.
No, but Fiamet.
And I'll cut here. There, go ahead, Johnny.
Let me ask you something. Now. If you get arrested today and you go to the Supreme Court, which constitution is applied?
Which law
what are they using today?
Which law are you talking about?
Doesn't matter. If you want to go to if you ask the court,
because the original Constitution of the United States is still alive and well. Some articles have been amended.
No, I think you're playing with words here. You're playing with words, and I like it. I like it. The Constitution of the United States,
the original one.
Are we applying the original Constitution of the United States today here?
Which law are you talking about here? That's where the
exactly.
Specificity.
So
that's
let's
assume. That's where the specificity.
So let's assume. Let's assume this is the United States Constitution. You see what's posted here, right? And in one of the articles, the United States Senate went through a process, an amendment process. Let's just assume this was the United States Constitution. Let's assume that this is an article in the United States Constitution. And they went through the 50 states and amended that Constitution from 1987, which is the version they had, to the 2012 version that we have here. And you go to the Supreme Court and you say, I have a problem that I need to apply Article 149. Right? Mm-hmm. Which one the court is going to use?
In what situation? In any situation, or
I have an issue. I have an issue. President Biden is unavailable in the United States Constitution. Let's just assume this doesn't say Haiti's Constitution. It says the United States Constitution.
Mm-hmm.
right? And let's just say this Article 149 that we have here is in the US Constitution.
Mm-hmm.
The one on the left was the old version. The one on the right is the version that was amended through the regular process as it was made in the law. The law tells us how to amend the Constitution in the United States. It says that it goes through the Senate. All 50 states has to ratify it. So the one on the right was ratified by all 50 states. It is now the law of the land. I go to the United States Supreme Court. They're looking at the law and they're going to look at this Article 149 on the right. Do you agree that that's the only option they have?
Well, that's the reason why I say that it depends on what situation that are you talking about here. And the reason why that we both agree the 2012 is because you don't have the institutions. This is a unique. I mean,
Let's not.
we have to look at. You got to look at the situation in the context that it is today.
Let him continue his piece, and then we'll.
Yeah, that's why I say that you got to look at the situation in the context that it is today. Haiti is in a context where the institutions. That's why I say that. Do we have a political crisis or an institutional crisis? I frame that since the beginning. And I look at it and I say, you have an institutional crisis because the institution that you need in order to move the country forward are not available. Therefore, you got to be creative. Is the creativity is the creativity to confuse political party, or is the creativity to reach out in our toolbox and to use something that has worked in the past? And this is where I am.
So I think you agree with me. Actually, we're actually not even arguing about debating it, because you essentially say the law doesn't apply here. We need to be creative. We are in an extreme circumstance. The law does not apply. And therefore, we're going to see what worked in the past. And we're going to use that. The only caveat I have, and maybe this is the word that's a little bit challenging when I say it for you, is that to do what you just said, you're going to have a political agreement, because as you say, there are no institution. And so I think we agree. I think we agree, because if you follow the law, there is a hierarchy. The hierarchy is that you have an effective constitution that the judges apply. There would be a normal process if we were following the law, in which a president is unavailable and the National Assembly would simply say, just like they did with Erta Truyo, just like they did with the other judge, they just say, we're going to put this judge as the provisional president. They followed the law.
By the way, Johnny,
right?
let me just put something here. There's nothing in the Article 149 when that was applied to say that the National Assembly has to do that. It just say that it is vested. No, it is.
Can you put it up again?
Yeah, Will? I'm looking at it now. It is say that it shall be temporarily vested with the duty of the President of the Republic of the Republic by the National Assembly, duly governed by the Prime Minister. So the Prime Minister goes to the National Assembly, and the President goes to the Supreme Court. It doesn't say the National Assembly has to appoint him. It doesn't say that, because I'm looking at it right now.
Can I ask a question before we move on? I'd love to hear, while we have these two up here, there's a question that was asked, which of these constitutions is stronger or can better serve Haiti today and moving forward? And with that, I'd like to take this opportunity to now transition as, how do we move forward? Let's say we're using X constitution because that's what's being used. How do we now leverage what's going on, or leverage what constitution is being applied to move forward and hopefully build up or enhance the lack of institutions that is now causing this problem of what we're discussing now?
Good question, but let me make a point. We do not have two constitutions. We have one constitution that was amended in 2012. So we do not have two constitutions. So let's make this clearer. So the
Correct.
2012 constitution is what's applicable now. What we are arguing is that we are in a unique situation where the one article in the 1987 that was amended in 2012 can be applied in this situation. So that's what we are arguing. So I just want to make it clear here, so that people don't understand that we have two constitutions and that we are arguing which one should be applied. We are debating whether or not a particular law in the original constitution that was amended can be applied in this unique situation.
Yep. And I will say again, we are in violent agreement. I think now that you agree that we only have one constitution, which is the 2012 Constitution, it clearly says what the process is. It can't be applied. You're saying, let's look back and apply something. Let's look back and apply something that doesn't exist anymore. I'm perfectly fine with that. And well, let me finish. I'm perfectly fine with that. We agreed. If, let's just say, the Constitution of 1805 was the best example that could help us out of this trouble, that's fine. That is not where my argument is. To get to that, to say we're going to pick the 1805 or we're going to pick the 1957 one, who decides? Who decides is the people who are involved in the political process. Because it's not as if there is going to be a referendum, because there's no government, where we ask the people which constitution they want to apply. If you get to that point, then you are in the land of a political agreement. And that's where we are today. Now, to the question of which constitution is best, I will answer the question to the viewer is that there is no best constitution. We are in a deep governance crisis. And what we're trying to find are solutions. Some of it may be constitutionally referenced. Some of it may be, some people would say, you know what? We need a strong man like the Duvalier to take over. Problem solved. That's an option. Just like some countries in Africa have done. That is an absolute option. And in fact, that's one option we almost had if Guy Philippe really had the capacity to act on what he said he wanted to do and play on his popularity. And that would be a putsch. And that could potentially work. So we need to get out of the frame of trying to fit a square peg in a round hole. There are no legal or constitutional answers. We can pick anything. But when we pick it, we are then going to have a political agreement in order to implement it. Whether it is a portion of the 1987, whether it is a portion of 1957, whether it is something in 1805, whether it is a strongman that comes in and takes the power. You need political power to make that happen.
And so that kind of pretty much helps us get towards the next stage of our debate here, which is moving forward. So now we have this Conseil group, and lots of folks want to know what would it look like for it to move forward. I don't want to say work because then I'm assuming it'll work, but what are your thoughts? And I'll let Firmin tackle that first. What are your thoughts if there's no way for us to choose which approach to go, and this is the one that's been chosen. How do we, what do you propose, or what do you think could this look like, or envision it to actually work? And hopefully, you mentioned a couple of times about the one institution that is kind of still here is the Supreme Court. And so the issue also is a lack of institutions that are established or working or functioning. So as we think about actionable things moving forward, I mean, how do you envision the role of this council, but also addressing the several other issues surrounding how this team was chosen to now lead the country? How do you envision this moving forward, or what concerns do you really have about this approach that's being taken now?
Yeah, let me take one thing that I'm hearing. Okay, my colleague says, so no matter which approach we taking, it has to be a political I should say discussion that lead to that approach. So my thing is, so there are two things here. There's the political aspect and there's the legal aspect of it. So are you saying that to leave that decision in the hands of the Haitian politicians, or should we leave the decision of moving forward in an institution that is that is there, is responsible for the legal aspect of the country? So are you saying that to leave that decision in the hands of the politicians to come up with whatever political solution you say would be the best, because they've already done that?
There is no other option, Fiame. And the argument whether to leave it in the hands of the politician has always existed.
Mm-hmm.
The very people that you're suggesting could be a solution to the problem were put in place by the politician. Let's just take the example today. Former Prime Minister Ariel Henry put most of the members in the current court, including the Chief Justice. And there are those who are arguing and say, we want to apply the 1987 Constitution, that Article 149 in 1987 original Constitution, which calls for the Chief Justice to be the one that gets put in as a provisional president. But because he was put in office by Prime Minister Henry, who had no legal authority, to be frank, to do that, people are now bending backwards to say, well, we're not going to pick, even though the Constitution we want to apply says it's the Chief Justice. We're not going to apply that because Ariel Henry put him. So we're going to go and identify the longest serving judge, because that judge, the justice rather, was put in place by Jovenel Moïse. Again, we are breaking the law to apply the law. You can't enter into a judicial argument on false premise.
So,
and it's a false premise. So at the end of the day, my friend, any way you cut it, it is going to be a political solution. But let's not forget the question that was asked in terms of the folks who are there now in this, the presidential council.
Well, the folks that are there, they come together and decided on a creative way, I should say, to move forward. There's no precedence for it. But since we are in a creative aspect of things, therefore that I can do that. The issue a lot of people face with this is like, we've been there, done that before. And we know how it happens. If we can go all the way back to Juin in 1956 or 57, or before that, actually. We can go back to 1986 when Duvalier left. He left a council of 7 people. Did it last 2 months? We know what happened with that. So we have used this creativity. So this creativity, not we, but this creativity before has been used before. And we see that it has not worked. So we're trying it again. So people are skeptical about whether or not it's going to work. The jury is still out there. Perhaps that if they make it work, that would serve as a precedent. So that when we in a situation like this before, which we could be, to say, oh, okay, this is what this has worked before, therefore let's do it again. I am hoping that we can come to a point where we apply the rule of law, where we lead our nation through with the Constitution, so that we would not find ourselves in a situation like this again.
Yeah, and
this is a creative solution.
Yeah,
and based on what we saw happen within the past couple of days, so the skeptics have the right to be skeptical,
yeah,
because of the idea, can political parties in Haiti coexist on the same platform?
absolutely. I absolutely agree with you. And then I think part of the challenge is that as a society, we don't have the muscle memory of doing politics in a way that respect the rules of the games and the rule of law. And I think where we're going with this is it is an attempt to do something different. And I would argue that it is an attempt to do something that allows as many of the actors to come together, because often what happens is that we live in a society where there is a deep lack of trust. No one wants to allow the other team. It's not like here in the United States, the Republicans come and they do what they do, and then we have elections, and then we swing. The Democrats come and then they do what they do. We swing to the other side. And so every team knows at one point they're going to be in power. And that in many ways allows the balance with the justices to stay out of the politics, to sort of say, okay, you legislate and we'll translate what that means. We simply don't have that in Haiti. And so I think, in as much as there should be a lot of skepticism of this particular solution in terms of the transitional presidential council, but it is one option that the political actors, and I think one of the things that folks need to understand, and I'll make this argument to you, Fiume, as well, is I sense your sense of skepticism of Haitian politicians. I got to tell you that that's what we have. And having been in Haiti like you, I see younger generation of people who are coming and being formatted in politics, which is why I got involved in the leadership development program. That's what we get. And so I'm not sure whether, if you just sort of wiped out all of the existing politicians you have today, and you put a new crowd of 30 something, I can pretty much guarantee you're going to end up with the same thing, because we don't have that political maturity. So we also have to remember that Haiti is a young country. And I always want to bring people back to sort of the historical context. I mean, yes, this is terrible what's happening in Haiti. We're living in a country where Americans slaughtered each other. Europeans slaughtered each other. Asians slaughtered each other. Obviously, because we're living in peaceful time here, we believe that it's normal to have peace. But Haiti's young. And I think these processes that we're going through, this model of trying to bring everybody in, it's going to be fit and start and stops. It's going to be painful, but we need to put it in a longer perspective and give it its chance.
Yeah.
Tony, that's give me a chance to rebuttal. That's well said, and in that I don't have a problem with Haitian politicians. I have a problem with people in general that do not respect principles, rule of law, that fail to that disregard them. That's the problem. And we here today, it is as a result of that we agree that these are the laws or these are the principles that's going to make us a nation. But the people who raise their hand, who swear to uphold those principles continuously, not upholding them and neglecting them, excuse me, because this is the best way that I can say it in Creole. So when and this is why we are in situation that we are today, is because people refuse to abide by the principles that we all agree on. It's not that I have a problem with politicians per se. I have a problem with people in general, that when we sign a contract, we say, this is what we're going to do. And they get into the middle of it and they completely reject it or ignore it or make believe that it did not exist. Case in point, if you saw what happened within the past 2 days with the council, they agree on April 3rd, this is how we're going to choose a prime minister. But then look what happened. 4 people decided, no, okay, we decided. And what? So it's like we did agree on something, and the first time that we have to apply, we do not, they don't want to apply. And that's the problem I have. And we need to get to a point where 99.8% people say that these are the laws and principles that are gonna make us that's gonna make us a nation. Let's apply them. Let's fight for them by any means necessary, because these are the principles that are gonna make us a nation. And that's the problem I have, because that's the reason why that we are in the situation that we have today. And I hope the next generation not to learn from their predecessors, but to learn about what makes us a nation. Just like I said at the beginning, it's not the fact that we eat rice and beans. It's not the fact that we dance compa. It's the fact that we have laws and a principle that we all agree on. And sometimes it may not be in our favor, but they still need to be applied.
Thank you both. So we'll have extra time towards the end of the event to provide last thoughts and some more action items. I do want to give some time to those that submitted questions prior to the event. Thank you all that submitted questions. And so a couple of them have kind of been already answered. So me as the 30-year-old that hopes to instill these principles in myself that Firmina is talking about. I mean, you both said a lot of things just now, so I'm really looking forward to what the next generation of leaders will look like as our country moves forward. And so one question I'd like to ask right now is, given the complexity of the current situation, how can the American diaspora, which I believe has a lot of diaspora here in the United States, how can the American diaspora aid in the transformative legislation? Now, this is a broad question. In my mind, I'm thinking about foreign policy to Haiti, but also policies in Haiti, domestic policy created by folks there. And so, Johnny, you've written a piece recently about this particular council. And so I'd like to offer you a chance to answer that question first. How you think the diaspora here in the States could play a role in transformative legislation, if it's not stateside foreign policy to Haiti, but is there a chance for us to engage with domestic policy in Haiti?
Yeah. Thank you for that question. And I think that, the prism through which we view these things, and as I listen to Firme, I absolutely agree with what he's saying. And yet, it doesn't square with the reality of human beings. We have a president here in the United States called President Trump, who basically break all the rules. And he's not getting away with some of them only because we have certain institution that's been put in place over generations. What that means is that we need to look at the sociology of the society. We can't kind of apply American practices and say, this is how it should be done. And I agree that's how it should be done, but it's not going to happen by osmosis. So then to switch over to the second part, which is around the question that you asked, the person asked on the audience, I think you see, for example, the same challenges that we're talking about in Haiti are reflected here in the diaspora. And one of the things that I'm committing to is to figure out how we begin to have that conversation. And this is why I'm so happy that we're having this particular conversation in this debates where we can exchange and sort of show how people have these kind of conversations. We can support our arguments, but yet we have agreements. And so we want to focus on those agreements. I think the diaspora could play a role at some point. I think the biggest role that the diaspora could play is around economic issues, um, primarily because I believe, and this is a human nature kind of thing, the basic needs have to be fulfilled. And I think that twofold. One is on the economic front, connected to um, advocacy or lobbying to have policies that ensures that people who want to participate in the economy of Haiti can do so safely, right? Because no one is going to invest their money in a place where they know somebody's just going to walk away with it because there's no institution and there's no recourse if somebody takes your hard-earned money. And so I would say that number one is for those who are watching, if you're not involved in any organizations that is thinking about Haiti and this is of interest to you, I strongly suggest that you do so, because there has to be these, you have to do things through organizations. I think you can't be this sort of individualistic kind of way of approaching it. Gren 5, chaque gren moun ka fait pali, et puis il pense le ka fait pour compte li, et puis l'autre il va Haiti au manjo. You have to come together. So one, participate in organizations here. Two, advocate or lobby. Essentially, if you're interested in Haiti, put your money where your mouth is, right? And three, if that is of interest to you, the economic front, I think, is the place to make a difference. Because I think at the end of the day, what every single person on earth wants is to have those basic needs met. And that begins with the opportunity to have a job, to earn a living. And I can take care of the rest, right? I can pay for school, I can pay for healthcare. So if I had the opportunity, all the money that we invest in everything else that we do in Haiti, I'd put it all on the economy, of course, connected with security, but I would put it all in the economy so that people can have what they need in order to provide for themselves.
Thank you, Johnny. And Graham, I'm passing it on to you. The question was, I guess, how can American diaspora get engaged with to influence transformative legislation, either be stateside here or domestically in Haiti? But my assumption is stateside. So foreign policy to Haiti.
That's I think there's a lot that the diaspora can do based on my experience doing advocacy work, but there need to be some understanding about what exactly are we talking about here. And I always say that if you ask a lot of people in the diaspora, you know, what do you think of the foreign policy US versus vis-a-vis Haiti, and they'll give you an answer. But if you ask them specifically, what policy do you know or would you like to see change, that they may not be able to answer that. Because a lot of time, you know, we say that US needs to change their policies to Haiti, but once you start diving into it to look at what policy are we talking about here, and there needs to be a level of understanding of research, I should say, that to understand what those policies are and how is it that they're affecting the country politically and economically. There are a lot of things that are going on between US and Haiti. People may think that they're policies, but they're more like somebody who think of something, therefore they're gonna do X, Y, and Z, but not really a written policy between the United States and Haiti. But on the Haiti side as well, there are a lot of advocacy from those of us who are in the diaspora have to do this idea that, you know, the political class or in Haiti can just get up and do whatever that they want to do. I think that we need to take an active approach and voice our opinion loud and clear so that the folks in Haiti, the political actors in Haiti, can understand where that we are coming from and implement some of the ideas that we voice.
Got it. Thank you, Fairman. So I'm not going to mention the work that we've done together, because there is a org that we have engaged with together that does advocacy stateside. I'm going to just insert this thing here, that advocacy here in the States is one mechanism that the diaspora here can use. I've seen it work. I've seen results, and looking forward to the results being shared publicly, Fairman. And so on this same topic, actually, and I think someone on one of the platforms asked a similar question. So someone prior to the start of the show asked about the original Constitution of 1805 and how they included a clause to have three representatives from each department. And so the person asks, are you aware of this, when it was implemented, and is this something that could be considered today, having representatives, those three representatives represent the different departments, pretty much thinking about decentralizing, but involving the department level, I guess, officials in the process. So I wanted to take a chance to ask about that, because I see someone mentioned decentralization in one of our platforms, but also someone asked a question about that. So Johnny, I'll let you go first with that one. And we do have about 5 minutes left of these Q&A, so the quicker the better to get to everyone.
I'll make it quick, and I'll just say to the person that the actual Constitution is quite progressive, and in fact has a lot of articles in it that allows for decentralization. The fact is, it just was never applied. For example, in the Council of Ministers, through a process through which the local representative, who then gets regrouped, and regional representative, who then get regroups into the 10 departments, so 10 representatives, one of them would be elected, which is called an election in the third degree, is actually supposed to sit in the Council of Ministers, right? They just never apply it. In fact, they did the election, and the senators themselves asked President Moise not to publish it. And so decentralization is there. And this is, again, where Firme and I have, a strong agreement, is that people are just not following the law. Now, how you get people to follow the law is the challenge. I'll say lastly that as it relates to the diaspora, we are faced with similar challenges and need to make sure that we can find, through these conversations, common ground. What are the one or two things that we can collectively be supporting or advocating for?
Yeah.
There's something that I'm hearing people are talking about, Constitution of 1904, 1905, or whichever one they're talking. I think that when the last constitution before the 1987 was the Constitution of the 1904, not 1904, sorry, 1964, that gave President Duvalier, President Folai, and that was done through referendum. Once Duvalier left, I think that those constitutions were suspended and create a new one. So when we're talking about constitution as today 22 to 24, and we're talking about the 2012, which means that we're not at the point where we have to go back and look at all these constitutions again. Now, Johnny, that doesn't mean that I am negating the fact that I think in this case that we have to go back to the one that 99.8% of the people have approved, because this is a unique situation.
We don't have to was 100%.
We don't have to go back all the way to 1964 and this and that. So we don't have to go back all of that. But just to make that clear, in fact, that in this constitution, it provides mechanism for decentralization to occur, because I think in Article 64, it says that the commune are financially and administratively autonomous, which means that they can manage their own and they can raise taxes and fees in order to manage the commune. And I always tell people, it's not that you don't have the law to make Haiti a flourish nation. It's just that the laws have not been applied and are not being applied. And also the people that that they put in power, okay, fail to recognize that these laws needs to be applied, and that's why people in Haiti needs to be very careful. Who are they going to vote into power, whether or not this person or that person understand that we have rules, we have laws, and we have constitution that needs to be applied to make the nation of Haiti what it needs to be.
Thank you. So thank you both. So that concludes our Q&A from those that submitted before. And we had, I think, two more, but I think you both covered the others. And so I would like to now transition over to final and closing remarks, very brief action items that you can propose in terms of what comes next after this debate. What can we engage with some more? I'll plug in my org, Haiti Policy House. We are here. We are the only Haitian-led, Haitian-based think tank in DC. So we are at the core of policymaking in the States. And so really looking forward to engaging with you all some more on that. And like I mentioned earlier, advocacy on the Hill has actual impact. So I'll pass it over to Johnny first, since he lost the coin toss, to give us about 2 minutes max if possible, your final thoughts and your action items and what's to come next.
Sure. Well, I just want to say again, thank you for the opportunity to be part of this conversation with my friend Fiume. We have strongly argued for our position, but I think what people could hear, number one, is a love for Haiti and an attempt to find solution in terms of how do we get out of the mess that we're in. The second thing I'd say is that as Haitian Americans or Haitians who may not be US citizens in any shape or form, I believe that if we care, those of us who do want to fully participate in the process, we need to make sure that we are making our voices heard. And sometimes that sounds nebulous. What it means is that, work to get your citizenship, because the 2012 Constitution, which is why I'm hanging tight to the 2012 Constitution, it got me back my Haitian citizenship, which allowed me to vote in Haiti. So I will fight tooth and nail for that 2012 Constitution. I'm not going back. I'm not losing that right. But really, as a Haitian, and that allows me to be fully engaged and say that I demand certain rights. I demand the right to be able to vote wherever I am. If I'm here in the United States, there should be a consulate, there should be an embassy. Today, I live in Washington Heights. The Dominicans are already doing election parties all over for the next presidential election in my neighborhood, right? For the Dominican Republic, right here in New York. We should have that. I think that's a way to break the hold that certain groups have on Haiti. And I really advocate very strongly, participate in the work that the Haiti Policy House is doing, because I believe that as we understand the policies, as we understand the impact of advocacy through an organization like the Haiti Policy House, we can bring these issues to the forefront, and people can see, the actors can see, there are numbers of people who are making these demands, whether it is on the US government or on whoever is in power in Haiti. So I'll stop here and just once again, thank you to everyone who watch and who ask questions. And we hope to continue these conversations going forward.
Thank you, Johnny. And Vern Fermin, our winner for the coin toss. You close this out.
Thank you, Johnny, and thank you, Gloria, for moderating this spirited debate. We made our position clear, but best of all, most of all, I think that a lot of people who are listening can learn from that, and we hope that they learn and they see the difference into the different path that Haiti is taking at this point. It is a unique and a dire situation, and my hope that we can create a society where laws are respected, where the constitution is viewed as a guide, principles that makes us who we are. And I'm hoping that the next generation can learn, and also that civic education is implemented into the schools to ensure that the people of Haiti know their laws, know their constitution, and demand the applications of the laws of the constitution from the elected representative. There are a lot that we in the diaspora can do. Platform like this is really important to let people know about the country, about what it takes to be Haitian. And I'm hoping that there would be a lot more debate just like this. And we hold Haiti dear to our heart, and our sole purpose of doing this debate or to talk about Haiti is to see a better future, not just for this generation, but for every generation after that. And I'm hoping that we can learn from other nations that have gone through crisis like this or situation like this, how they're able to come together and form a union to propel their country to not just toward stability, but also toward um, um, greatness. Thank you very much. Thank you, Gloria, and thank you, Haiti Policy House.
Thank you, Fairman, and thank you. Thank you both for an amazing discussion, amazing debate, an informed and respectful debate. And so everyone that's here, the viewers, I want to thank you all for your time. You spent an hour and a half with us. I know there's a lot to give, but it's Thursday, close to the weekend. So I hope everyone has a great weekend. I want to also take the time to also let you know that we'd love to hear your input, your feedback on this event that we hope to keep going. And so as I wrap up my final statements, please put your smartphone with the camera towards the screen and click X on the QR code if that works. If not, we'll be sending over an email to those that RSVP'd. And so again, thank you all for being here this evening. I hope that you all learned something. I learned. And as someone that had the hopes of being Minister of Agriculture way back when I was naive in undergrad, I hope that this is still an option for me in the future. And like Johnny said, it's time to put our money where our mouth is. Really looking forward to seeing how we can work together, advocate, speak with at least a same voice in some way. And thank you all. And I look forward to doing more of this. Have a great evening, and we'll be in touch. And so, Haiti Policy House, Dieu merci, passez un bon week-end, and à parler bientôt.